Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mormon Newscast. I'm Radio Free Mormon, joined currently by my colleague Bill Reel, who's a bit under the weather. Nevertheless, he's still here, pitching for the team. How are you doing, Bill?
Good. I think they ought to warm up somebody in the bullpen, but I am here.
Well, that's where Rebecca comes in, because apparently she's doing heaven knows what in Washington, D.C., but one of the things she's not doing is getting a really, really good, solid connection to the old internet, such as to allow her to appear here. Now, her last words to us were she thought she had it worked out. She might be a couple of minutes late, I think was her quote. Wasn't it, Bill?
Correct. So I'm expecting to see her.
All right. So let's just all concentrate and send the most positive vibes out for Rebecca to join us from Washington, D.C. Now, this is only going to make it a little bit difficult. It's not that difficult, but she has the lead story. So is there anything that you would like to talk about, Bill, before we get going on tonight's show?
Well, you say that, but I think I have the lead story. I think she asked me to do the story on garments.
There you go.
So
I figured if it was garments, it was going to be Rebecca. I think that she was the one who was going to do this at first, wasn't she?
No, she asked me to do it. So
give me something, Bill. Anything.
She asked me to do it. So I'm really sorry, but I do have it ready to rock and roll.
Okay, well, then we don't need Taver here to do the top story. Here's the stories we'll be covering tonight. Story number 1, can't get rid of old garments fast enough. Number 2, Mormon birth rates dropping. Number 3, Elder Andersen, young adult devotional. Number 4, mayoral candidate asked inappropriate question. Next, AI religious freak out. Next, fasting for the Great Salt Lake. And finally, is the word Mormon making a comeback? Well, that would be great if it did, because I could still be Radio Free Mormon and not have, like, in the interim, changed it in order to make it comply with the dictates of President Nelson.
Radio Free Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints doesn't have the same ring to it.
No. I'll tell you, Midnight Mormons, that was good. That was good. That should not have been tossed overboard in favor of Ward Radio.
They should have stuck with the original, especially if it comes back around. That was such a sad thing.
It's going to be righteous again. I'm telling you guys.
Fair Mormon will have to change their name for the 4th time.
So here we go. And we've got the top story. You ready to go, Bill?
I'm ready. So I thought the easiest way to do this, and I think Rebecca is here. So we'll see if this shows up. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Hear you great.
Are they allowing you your one phone call?
This is it. Exactly. Oh my gosh. I've been in hotel prison, trapped with horrible technology all day. I've gone to Best Buy twice to buy microphones, cords, Valium, but here I am, ready to do the newscast.
I'm so glad you're here. What a trooper you are.
You're
both
miss
troopers.
This for the world. That's right. I love the newscast. I love our audience. I love you guys. I'm on Valium. No,
whatever it takes to get you through the show. That's what I say.
Exactly. That's what I think.
You're not the only one. Okay. So
I interrupted Bill's story, Rebecca.
Oh, I'm really, and I knew that. I'm sorry. I was going to say, let me in when it makes sense, because I know Bill also is a little under the weather. I don't know if that was your story today, but all of us have been having issues. I don't know what your issue is, RFM.
Was the garment story, was that ever your story, Rebecca?
Do you know, I've been following it forever and always reporting on it, but I was really concerned that I might not make it tonight. And it's such a big story. I wanted to make sure it was covered. So I know Bill's going to cover it, and then we can all weigh in, because we've all been, kind of keeping tabs on it. And I was following it in real time on faithful social media as it unfolded. Yes. So that was fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought the easiest way to present this was to go back through the entire timeline. And I put it more in understanding order rather than every article, I think, in its chronological order, but I think this will make a lot of sense. When the church first announced that women in hot and humid climates would be allowed to wear new sleeveless garment tops, it sounded like a small climate-based accommodation. At least that's the way the first presidency made it sound. First presidency framed it as a compassionate adjustment, an update meant to help members stay committed to their faith while also being comfortable in sweltering conditions. But anyone who has spent time inside the culture of Mormon garments knew this was about a lot more than humidity. The reaction was instant and emotional. That control showed up fast. Church retailers and local leaders clarified that the sleeveless style would only be available to women living in specifically approved hot and humid areas. In other words, Salt Lake wasn't about to become sleeveless anytime soon. Even women who had been ordering garments for decades suddenly found themselves navigating confusing restrictions, regional approvals, and a slow bureaucratic rollout that made the whole thing feel like less of a revelation and more like rationed permission. Almost immediately, social media lit up with commentary from both women and men. Some men treated it like a theological earthquake, worried that it signaled creeping worldliness or a slippery slope toward tank tops and sacrament meeting. I'll also note that I think most men probably were more supportive of the women than maybe even some of the women were. I think for the most part, I think that article there reported that many men were encouraging of their female partners and the women in their world, but there were men who were really uncomfortable with it. Others, to their credit, cheered the change as long overdue, finally acknowledging that women's comfort and agency matter too. Women's voices, though, dominated the discussion. Many expressed relief and excitement, saying that they had prayed for something like this for years. Others were cautious, noting how much control the church still exerts over what women wear on their own bodies. And I have to note, when this first came out and the leadership of the church announced that this was going to be just in hot and humid areas, very specific locations, I had two thoughts. One thought was, there's no way that's going to work. And it didn't. We'll see in one of the future slides here that many folks ended up buying the garments in the areas they were available in and then selling them on the, I'll say, black market, but sort of outside of standard channels, and we're just raising the price 2 or 3 times over. So my one thought was that women just weren't going to stand for it. They, if they're accessible somewhere, they're going to have to be accessible everywhere. But I've seen the church alter course on things like temple questions in the past. And I also wondered, the other option to me was that the church could retrench. It could pull back the sleeveless garments in total, although I assume they invested a lot of money to get that off the ground. But in this church, you never know if they're going to let you have a progressive thing that they start to unveil or if they'll just pull it back. And so I'll just note that. This article here was from the Associated Press. Undergarment upgrades bring many Mormon women comfort and joy. So just to note that the national media was picking up on this as well. I think I've got
it is kind of a news story, newsworthy in the outside world, isn't it, Bill, that you have adherents of a very well-known Christian or Christian-like sect called the Mormons, who have strange underwear. And a lot of people have heard about that now. And now it's like they change the shoulders a little bit for the women, and they're lining up around the blocks.
Yeah,
I think that's newsworthy.
Yeah, and sure, because garments is one of the, if I were to say a handful of 5 things that the rest of the world, if they know things about Mormons, they know that. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch, because Mormonism has this long history of being extremely rigid about its ritual practices, and garments play a heavy role in the temple, in being temple worthy and being able to have a temple recommend. And I think the world, when it noticed, like, hey, you've had for this long time that Mormons have to wear certain clothes because they've got this garment underneath, and now you're changing that, and suddenly you have an entire church culture that is going like, oh, like, we can dress differently now. Why now? Why did it change? Why couldn't it have been done a long time ago? And once you change something like this, you sort of self-admit as the church that you never needed it to be that way in the past. It's a strange thing to watch the church leadership change in these ways that sort of indicate that on some level, they just maybe weren't listening as well in past moments. So there's that.
No, and I think you said that perfectly.
I'm sorry,
go ahead, Orphan.
No, after you.
Oh, I was
Princess.
going to say, I think you said that perfectly, Bill. They were not listening and they had no idea that the women all over the world would want these garments. Why would they? And this shows a complete tone deafness. I stand by what I said in the beginning and what others think. They really did create these garments for Africa and the Philippines and never imagined or could understand why it would have an appeal to anyone anywhere else. When those garments showed up on the websites for those countries and were discovered by women all over the world, then they finally made an announcement. They didn't say anything about it until then. And then they said, oh, yes, Q4. A lot of people I've talked to in marketing say, oh, yeah, this is an accidental rollout that then they had to quickly backpedal and say something about. And here we are, Q4. But I think the appeal worldwide to watch this phenomenon is like any of us. We're interested in other cultures. We have sort of a train wreck, can't look away fascination with other cultures that are more restrictive than we are, right? Like I want to watch a documentary about Hasidic Judaism and what do the women have to do? So it's that kind of a thing. You know, people are voluntarily putting them in this restriction. Suddenly the restriction is changed or lifted slightly. And you see the reaction of all the women, all the people saying to the world at large, we never really wanted to do this. We did it. Someone told us to do it and we thought we had to do it. And now look at us. Websites are crashing, 200 people in line, only 10 at a time letting in. It is the biggest deal in Mormonism. And exactly what you said, Bill, it really shows you it could have been changed all along. What was it all for? I have read so many posts from women of my age that have that reaction, even faithful. What was it all for then? It points out that you can make these changes on a whim and it meant nothing. So what else might be wrong? Or what else might be just simply someone's opinion or a whim? So sorry, that was my little soapbox, but I do feel very passionately about this. And I know a lot of women do. It's bigger than just a piece of fabric on your shoulder.
Yeah, women in the past were quiet about it because they were told to be quiet about it. And as you point out, this was meant, to be just for specific places, but Mormon leaders lost control of the narrative. They thought they could make these particular to certain areas and regions, and the backlash or the demand for them was so significant that the church, it appears to me, had little choice but to go against what their own statement was about this and release these essentially to the entire Mormon female population. RFM, you were going to say something?
Are they not at this point releasing them to everyone? Rebecca?
Yes, they
Bill?
are. Now they finally are. And also
okay.
men, we don't bring this up enough either. Men got a tank top garment, again, for the hotter climates. And of course, men in the US are kind of like, I don't know exactly what to do with these because they're kind of a strange cut, you know? And what's interesting is that you had mentioned before, Bill, about men being supportive of women. And I have been tracking this on faithful social media since the beginning, months and months ago. And now as they've been released, and so many men, these supportive Mormon men are saying, oh, thank goodness. Maybe my wife won't have these infections anymore because there's a slip, right? That you do not have to wear, anything under. And, that breathability, if I can get graphic, can really help with a lot of these problems, these UTIs and infections that women are having. So men are, saying thank you, that this is really going to help my partner because they're in that together, those health problems, and they're both trying to keep the commandments and do the right thing. What was interesting is that the slip and the half slip, faithful social media, the women are saying, well, what do we wear under it? Do we wear garments under it? And others are saying, well, no, they are garments. They have the marks to the knee. And the women are saying, well, then what do we wear under them? And other ones are saying, well, you can buy your own underwear. Like it's this incredible thing. So I stand, the only other person that is as adamant as I am that tank top garments, the slip, the half slip is going to take the church down from the inside is Jim Bennett. I say the ability to buy your own underwear and the freedom that gives and the feeling of wearing those and what that means, that is going to change everything. So it's huge.
So you're saying this was a huge mistake on the part of the Mormon church?
They were forced into it in order to maintain converts in Africa. This is my theory. They had to make the cultural adjustments to the dressing there. And like Bill said, their hand was forced. It was already out. You can't say it's for you and not for you. You can't say that, especially when so many people discovered it. And so, yes, the other thing that I've noticed is that we all saw those influencers, right, that got the early tank top garments and they're dancing around. They all said similar things. I feel so free suddenly. I feel empowered. I feel like I can do anything. Think about that feeling. What else can you do? What else are you empowered to do? It's a huge mind change, a shift in the way you feel, and empowerment. It absolutely is. And I'm telling you, the first time I ever put on, something that was sleeveless, I had the same feeling. I've talked to another Mormon mom who said she started to cry the first time she put something on and revealed her shoulders. On the documentary Mormon No More, Nan Osborne described wearing a sleeveless dress to her daughter's wedding reception for the first time and almost crying with that feeling. I'm telling you, it's a feeling, it's a movement. It's just half an inch of fabric, but it's so much more.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see here as we get into this, but one of the images that the Deseret News used caught me off guard because I could tell exactly before I even read it what they were going for. So not this one, it's a two further ahead from this, but then came the supply issues. Reports surfaced of Latter-day Saint women waiting weeks or months to get new garments. Some drove hours to distribution centers only to find them sold out. Online orders were backlogged. Women began trading tips and screenshots like they were chasing concert tickets. The level of demand revealed something the church probably didn't expect. Women weren't just interested. They were desperate to ditch the old style. Photos circulated of long lines at distribution centers, at Deseret Book, and other places, and women lined up like it was Black Friday, all to get a simple tank top version of the garment. They were told was divinely inspired in every stitch, and some new style garments were being sold in the black market, and I mentioned this before, though 2 to 3 times the standard price. So that was the line. There were several photos online of this, but you could see the lines were out. And as you point out, they only let in 10 at a time, and they were out the door and around the corner and people waiting in the parking lot. It looked to me like somebody was waiting in front of Best Buy on Black Friday to try to get the TV for $200 off.
I feel like there's got to be a special place in hell for somebody who does that kind of markup on the holy garments of the priesthood.
Yeah. Priestcraft. What is the definition of priestcraft? That sort of matches it.
They didn't make enough money.
The change also stirred questions about temple weddings. If women could now wear sleeveless garments, could they finally have sleeveless wedding dresses without a scandal? And when it comes to just normal outside the temple weddings that some members choose to do, brides began asking seamstresses and local leaders for guidance, wondering if their long-standing dreams of a more natural, elegant look were now within reach. The responses were mixed. Of course, with some leaders saying yes, others saying no. The lack of consistency only highlighted the messy intersection between revelation, policy, and control over female expression. So there's that. This was the image that caught my eye. Deseret News, the conversation we should be having about new temple garment designs. And the picture isn't Mormons at all. And I thought this was interesting. So these are women, and I'm trying to think how they spell that, but it's like Yaridi or something, Yaridi, I think. But this is another religious tradition, and this is their religious clothing that they too are told they have to wear, that it is about following the rules and being obedient. And that turns out, and so when I saw this image, I thought, oh, I know the signal here. We may have given you tank top garments, but don't get too excited, ladies. This is still about obedience and control. So the Deseret News, the church-owned newspaper, published an article urging members to avoid focusing too much on the physical changes. Yeah, don't talk about it. Don't keep mentioning it. Don't get everybody worked up in a tizzy about how exciting it is to have these new garments that we've been wanting, at least not wanting the old ones. And instead to keep their minds on spiritual covenants. Quote, keep their minds on spiritual covenants. It was an
I just want to remark that this is a newspaper that is trying to tamp down the enthusiasm for a news story.
The enthusiasm for the very garments that its church created and is selling to these female members.
It's very interesting over on Faithful Social Media. I keep saying that, but I love to spend time over there. Somebody said, talking about the tank top garment, Well, yeah, but just because the garment is tank top doesn't mean that we can show our shoulders. We haven't been given those instructions yet, right? So there's a thought on that. And the person is not really wrong. If you go over, like I did today, onto, the church website, there are page after page of articles that still say cover your shoulders. They are not taking this off of the website. So this may become sort of a virtue signaling kind of a thing. Have we been given the instruction from whoever needs to instruct us that we can show our shoulders? I can see how it might turn into a, sort of like the being able to be sealed out or married outside of the temple and then sealed. The truly righteous go straight to the temple, right? The truly righteous still cover their shoulders. It's interesting. Everybody's always looking for something that they can do. Even over on Faithful social media, I've seen a few posts where people say, has anyone ever thought about covering their hair? Do LDS people, should we start doing that? And some people say, that's a wonderful idea to show modesty. Other people say, no, we're not going that far. Everybody's always looking for something to show their outward piety. But it's interesting. Somebody interviewed one of the Deseret book workers and said, what did you think about all this? This lines, the people, the craziness. The Deseret book employee said, I think it just shows everyone's coming closer to the Savior. That's what this Black Friday mayhem indicates, is that we're coming closer to Jesus Christ. And I thought, if garments were really just about an outward symbol of your inward commitment, it wouldn't matter what kind you were wearing. It's your covenants, it's your garments. You wouldn't run out and get them. You already have garments, and also how sort of wasteful. People are asking now how to dispose of their other garments because now they have the tank top garments and no instruction has not been given to modify them yet at all. So it's really a story that's going to keep going, I think, as the garments are out there. I'm guessing that a lot of ward Halloween parties saw sexy nurse costumes, right? Maybe with a little shoulder showing. I think this is going to keep going.
Interesting. It was an institutional nudge reminding everyone that this wasn't about fashion or feminism. The message was clear. Obedience, not preference, should define a Latter-day Saint. But that message landed flat for many who saw this whole saga as proof that the church only moves when the pressure gets loud enough. And when the pressure gets loud enough, it sure does move. So this was the last slide I had. This was a Exponent 2 blog post that came out. And when I get done here with this story, I'll put the link to this in the show notes. But I just want to note, as a once devoted garment wearer, blogger, Abby Maxwell Hansen has advice for both the critics of the women waiting in line and the women themselves. And I just want to note the title of the article: Non-garment wearers need to think twice before talking right now. Now, we've just spent the last 10 or 15 minutes talking about it. And we're going to continue to do so because I think it's newsworthy. It's interesting. And I think it speaks to a larger movement happening within the LDS Church. She writes, quote, and this was the money quote. She writes, if you stood in line for garments this week, I applaud you. And I hope you can brush off the comments saying you aren't capable of thinking for yourself. Now, I want to stop there for a moment. Obviously, believing women who are rushing out, waiting in line, want these garments, paying twice the price, 3 times the price to get them, obviously they're thinking for themselves. But I want to note that when the church had a hard line approach to garments, those same women just did what they were told. And so I think there is a discrepancy here between what we do when we're committed to a religion, and that religion tries to control us and tell us all the things that we need to do. And then the moment that religion leaves a little room for us to go ahead and make our own decisions about our personal lives, and what happens the moment that space is given. She says, I hope you can brush off the comments saying you aren't capable of thinking for yourself. You are thinking for yourself deeply. In fact, you are likely in the middle of a lifelong struggle with your beliefs and spiritual practices that will continue to evolve in meaningful ways. Trying out new garments as, what's that, RFM?
It seems a bit presumptuous.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, though. I think there's at least a group of women out there who are listening to the conversation, and they're thinking the questions that are the quiet things that we're not supposed to say out loud. And I think
you're saying more than half of the people who light up her
how
garments
can you not? How can
are
you
in the
not
middle of a
say
lifelong struggle.
exactly? But how can you not say what was it all for? Honestly, especially somebody my age who I've seen heartbreaking posts from people that say, "Wow, my younger body would have looked amazing in these." You know what I mean? And I've seen spouses say the same thing about their wives. Wow, there's loss here. There's loss.
Do you think any of that loss, Rebecca, plays into this policing attitude you were talking about earlier, about maybe some people wanting to continue to wear it long and saying just because the garment has been changed, it doesn't mean that we can now not cover our shoulder?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that's one reaction. I think it's cognitive dissonance because others are going, what was it all for? And really feeling that loss. And others maybe cope by saying, well, no, they're not telling us we can do that. We still need to do the other. I agree with this statement that it's going to lead to a lot of introspection just about how you feel or have felt about things.
I didn't know that that's what it was about. It seemed generalized. Anyway, it goes on, Bill.
Yeah, I'll just note too, I don't remember what the sister's name was, but the Relief Society, I think she's Relief Society General Presidency. And when she talked about working outside the home, and there was this moment where up to that moment, women had believed, and it's true, that they had been taught that a woman's place is inside the home, that go ahead and get your education, but then get married, have kids, and don't really apply that education outside the home, use it to raise up righteous children. And when she spoke about working outside the home and having this high up calling in the church, there was a rub there that I think a lot of women picked up on, and you saw the comments that came out of this. I think this sort of was a similar thing in that when they announced that the garments were going to be to specific areas, the women of the church immediately just went into action of like, hell no. They might be saying they're only available in Africa, but come hell or high water, if they're good enough for the African saints, I'm going to find myself a few pair of these. And the church, like I said before, the church, I think, lost control of the narrative. It says here, trying out new garments as early as possible shows me that you aren't complacent in your faith journey. Again, she's pointing out that women, as soon as this happened, women in significant numbers went to work trying to find these. She says you are proactively trying everything you can to make it work. I've been in that place too, and it was anything but complacent for me. And I'll just wrap up here saying this. Abby Maxwell Hansen pointed out in the article that those of us on the outside of Mormonism should be really careful to criticize these women for not thinking. And I haven't seen that message among critics. I've seen all of us just noting that the church extends a high level of control, and that all of us, men and women, when we're given some freedom to think for ourselves, we really appreciate being able to make our own choices. Yes. And I'll just wrap up saying that I think these garments are here to stay. I don't think you could take them back now. I don't think the church could make that second move I spoke about earlier. So I think at this point, the church is going to lose control and influence in a way that it maybe hadn't planned on when it first announced these making it to certain areas. And I applaud any person, male or female, who trusts their gut over religious authorities telling them what to be, what to do, what to say, how to act. Because if you at least notice, those of you who still do that, if you at least notice that even the leaders of the church seem, pardon the word choice I use, but seem clueless about what God really wants you to be and do and act. And so kudos to you for following the precept that Joseph Smith taught with. I do believe that we teach them good principles and we let them govern themselves. And I think the church would be a much healthier faith if it did that. Your guys' final thoughts?
Yes. No, can you put that back up?
Sure will.
Because I had made a comment about Abby Maxwell Hansen's article here that's quoted, which I think is justified at the end of that period, that it does sound presumptuous. What I did not know is that after saying that, she would go on to justify it in the following sentences. Trying out new garments as early as possible shows me that you aren't complacent in your faith journey. You know, these are the ones standing in line. So I think she does support it. It's just after she makes the statement. And that's what made me concerned before I read the following sentences or before Bill read them.
Makes sense.
Okay.
It reminds me of the priesthood ban, right? Everyone said, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness we all wanted this to happen. Really? Well, where was that, right? There is no avenue or channel in the church to ask for anything. Although I feel like women have been talking about garments for a long time because women are wearing garments despite the risks to their health. That's what is being ignored. That's where they're clueless. I mean, serious health concerns for women all these years wearing fabric that starts out blue or grayish and is dyed white with chemicals, right? That you're wearing right next to your skin all the time. And it's very harmful. Certain people are tortured by this and still, follow the rules and wear the garments. So yes, this is a huge deal. I will say my last comment here, apparently the garment bottoms, there are new bottoms, are terrible. Everybody is complaining about them. They're kind of a new stretchy fabric, dry stretch. And the men have said, I don't know what this means, but instead of supporting, it smushes. So take that for what it's worth.
Sounds like extra support.
It does.
Spandex garments. Oh, yes, my story. Here we go. All right, hang on a second here. And yes, Latter-day Saints are having fewer children, believe it or not. Church officials are taking note. Yes, we all knew that they're having fewer children. You know how we knew? Because it's like the church leaders, especially President Oaks, can't talk about anything else except telling us like he did in the last general conference in October, right? By the way, if I didn't say it, and I don't think I did, today's date is November 3rd, 2025. Welcome to the Mormon Newscast, everybody. But he's saying it out loud, and he's emphasizing, like I haven't seen in forever, get married younger and have more children. And so this is what they're talking about. This was from an NPR article by Sierra Hewlett from Friday. Dateline, Salt Lake City. When you think of big families, one of your first thoughts might be members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, commonly called Mormons. In spite of everything that President Nelson could do, I think that's true, commonly called Mormons still. In the early 1980s, they were having an extra kid and a half compared to the rest of the U.S. on average. Latter-day Saints still have more children, but their families are shrinking. The church's top leader, that's President Dallas H. Oaks. The church's top leader addressed declining U.S. birth rates during the faith's semi-annual general conference in October, which millions of members tune into from around the world. There are more than 17.5 million Latter-day Saints globally, according to the church, period, end of parentheses, I should say. Okay, I'm going to try and read this. I couldn't resist taking this picture and making it the background. Dallas H. Oaks, the newly appointed prophet and president of the church, said that while birth rates within the church are higher than national numbers, they've still declined significantly. He said, it is vital that Latter-day Saints do not lose their understanding of the purpose of marriage and the value of children. That is the future for which we strive, he said. Our relationship to God and the purpose of our mortal life are explained in terms of the family. In Latter-day Saint theology, people live as spirits in a pre-mortal world. Being born on earth is how humans get a body and learn and grow. They also believe it's a commandment from God for people to multiply and replenish the earth. Do you like that picture of Jesus dancing with this person? Can you see that?
Yeah, is that a child or is that a young woman? I can't tell.
I don't know what her age is.
It looks like Dancing with the Stars, and he looks like he's a little too into it with his.
You think so?
A little bit, just a little.
I never thought of Jesus as a dancer.
Yeah, he can do all things.
He's the best dancer ever. He's even better than Baryshnikov. The article goes on. Bishop Steve Ehrer Now, this is the kind of bishop I want to have with the last name Error. That's the guy I want to go to and say, can I counsel with you over this decision I'm trying to make, Bishop Error? So whatever you tell me, I'm going to do the exact opposite, right? Bishop Steve Error oversees a congregation, we know it's a ward, in Salt Lake City, where the church has its headquarters. Now, this is in the heart of Mormonism. This is Salt Lake City. This is going to be significant here in a second. He said the number of kids in his charge, which means in the ward, has been going down. And he mourns the loss, partly because he thinks children and adults have a lot to learn from each other. Error says the church's focus on kids has to do with their belief in eternal families, that families can be together forever. But he worries about there being enough kids in his congregation to support each other. He says being a member of the Mormon church is not easy.
He can say that.
I'm sorry, what, Bill?
He can say that again.
It's not easy. There is a real benefit for having that community where you're living the same standards and you have similar beliefs and you're strengthening each other, The church's senior leadership didn't grant NPR's request for an interview or comment, which is kind of strange. I mean, don't you just want to be out there? Even if it's just to say, I don't know, just say something, for crying out loud. It's like these people don't want to get new members, They send out missionaries everywhere, but they do all these efforts. All their efforts are artificial, it seems to me, and self-generated instead of just responding.
I think they're worried that if they say something, it might end up on a program like the Mormon Newscast and be scrutinized and torn to pieces.
I don't think they're worried about that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But we're going to do that with the fireside last night from Elder Andersen here in just a few minutes.
Boy. Yeah.
Now, here's this guy, Catholic University of America demographer Stephen Cranny, crunched the numbers on the religion's families. In 2008, about 70% of Latter-day Saint women ages 18 through 45, basically childbearing years, had at least one child at home. In 2022, that number was 59%, a rate of decline mirrored in the American population at large. So that's quite a significant decrease. It's basically 10% from 2008 to 2022. And that is what? That's just 14 years. Is that right? Here is the actual graph that they provide. Birth rates are declining among Latter-day Saint and non-LDS women. The non-LDS women are in the blue. It begins on the year 2008. It goes up to 2004. So once again, non-LDS are the blue, which is lower, starting at 55%. And then the LDS in that category of women ages 18 through 45 with one child at home, we're at 70% back in 2008. So we were 15% higher than the national average. But you can see that everything's been going down kind of the same. The LDS church has been going down in a similar pattern to the non-LDS. But of course, they're still above that rate all the way through. Any questions about this?
No, I think it tracks, and it's purely economic. It takes two incomes to raise a family, and if the church wants more children, all they have to do is step it up as far as their support. Less tithing for a family with kids, pay stay-at-home moms to run daycares to support mothers. Salt Lake just cut funding and is closing funded daycares. If you want more children, you have to support families, and you're not.
Instead, they're encouraging them to incur more difficulty, burden, and debt by getting married younger.
Yep.
And having kids earlier.
It's an endless cycle. With tithing on top of that, you can never dig out, ever.
The thing I'll add to this is just, it seems at least interesting. I don't know that there's anything that really needs to be said about it, but interesting when these lines diverge from each other and when these lines run in parallel with each other. And it might be interesting to note what's being said in the church during those time periods, the 2-year little time periods as they're measuring that, because for the most part, the LDS line and the non-LDS line follow the same trajectory, but from 2022 to 24 is different. And strangely, 2010 to 2012 is the same, but 2012 to 2014, the world started having more kids and Mormons were having less. Anyway, nothing specific to say about that, just that seemed interesting.
There is a margin of error that's noted at the bottom of the article. It's modest for non-LDS, but for some unspecified reason, it's massive for the Mormon reporting, like around 7% margin for error. So that may account for some of that. Also, I just wanted to note that this is not as massive a shift as it might appear. It is not on the left axis. The A axis it is not from 0 to 100%. Instead, the bottom line is 35% and the top line is 75%. So those will look, of course, bigger than if the entire 0 to 100% were being displayed.
But I think the church is concerned overall, even if it's just a worldwide downward or national trend, because they know that young people are going to tend to follow along with that unless they make a course correction. And they also, I think, know the most sure way to keep and maintain a member of the church is to have someone born in the covenant. That's the only way. That's a pretty strong indicator that they're going to possibly stay, right? And so course correction is what we're seeing from top leadership as they tell these young people, go ahead, get married. Go ahead, don't worry, start your family. I did it in my day. I had a nickel when I got married, right? Ha ha. What a folksy story. And I will say for people of our age who have children in that demographic, newly married, thinking about starting families, I was very concerned that my faithful kids were hearing this information because I thought that's such a personal decision. Make that between you and your partner. Please don't let an outside influence have any kind of say in that very sacred decision that's going to be best for you. So I think we're all worried about our kids hearing this rhetoric.
They are really ramping it up, and this is why. Because they are losing people right and left, and they don't have enough new Latter-day Saint kids being born to fill out the gap and make up for that. And they've been able to rely on that forever. Okay, now this was the money shot, okay? This is the money line in this article about Bishop Error. Bishop Error said they have to adapt to this new reality. His congregation's youth and kids' church classes didn't have enough students, leading them to partner with another congregation. That shocked me. The only reason it shocked me is because he's actually saying the truth. Why is it that when we get these anecdotal stories about how wards are having to combine with each other, just the youth and the kids, in order to run primary, in order to run the youth activities because they don't have enough independently? It's sounding more like these wards are shriveling to branches, what we would consider branches, and which is a small version of a ward, if I can just say that much for anybody who is not a Mormon watching. So we would consider those branches. This is in Salt Lake City. That's why I was stressing that. This is in the heart of Mormonism, where they have so few kids in primary and in the young men, young women's, that's the youth, that they have to combine them with another ward. This is remarkable. And I think that it gives the lie to the repeated claims we've been hearing more and more frequently and desperately, if I may say so, that the church, these are the claims, is that the church is growing more than it ever has in its history. Any comments about this? Bill, Rebecca?
I'll just say you're hitting on it. We've said it before. All the data that we can observe points to a shrinking church. What Salt Lake chooses to tell everyone is it's growing like, it's growing faster than anybody would believe. And they sort of say it that way. You're not going to believe this. Well, we don't.
Well, and they're not wrong to be worried about the youth programs. How many of us stayed in the church for decades because of the wonderful experience we had overall in our program? I mean, you guys joined later, but a lot of people are talked to are like, oh, it was amazing. road shows and parties and water
Mhm.
skiing on the river. And you
Dances.
have those memories and dances. I have those memories. I grew up like that, and it carried me very far, decades in the church, right? Trying to
Mhm.
recreate that for my own kids, trying to make sure they had that kind of experience. It was society, it was camaraderie. It wasn't the doctrine or what the teachers were telling us. It was that. That does not exist anymore. They're desperately trying to put words together to see if they can somehow create that. But without that bonding, kids, I think it's very easy for them to step away when they become a certain age. And anecdotally, I think we're all sharing stories like this. I visited what should have been a thriving ward in Houston a while ago with a family member, and she said, "Oh yeah, we have 6 people in our young women. I'm the secretary." And I'm like, 6? That's kind of incredible. She goes, "Yeah, and one's inactive, the bishop's daughter, you know." Sorry,
Where was
but
this
that is
again? Oh,
Houston,
you said
Houston area.
Houston. Okay.
Yeah, Houston area, which, it should be thriving. And everybody was kind of like, yeah, I think people are just kind of moving out. Nobody seemed to really be able to explain it. But
The
I think
Mormons are
anecdotally,
always moving out of everywhere. They're not
and
moving
that's why.
to anywhere. They're
Yeah,
just
that's
moving
why.
out of everywhere.
Right. But I feel sorry for the youth that are in. And when I was raising my kids, there were enough youth to make it worth it. And all of us moms got together and we recreated kind of what we grew up with, the
Mhm.
parties and the dances and the things. I don't think that's possible anymore. And I think the kids just kind of scatter to the wind because they don't have that.
Yep. The story goes on. Now, this is about a specific couple. Utah Mormons, Ryan and Missy Allen, decided to limit their children to 2 and not have a third. These guys are going to the celestial kingdom if they're lucky. They both work. Oh my gosh. She's a I say, oh my gosh. And I say all this because back when I was getting married and everything, we understood that if you're a faithful Mormon, the husband works outside the home to support the wife who stays at home and has the full-time job of taking care of the kids. Was that the way it
Yep.
was when you were my age?
Oh, yeah. No, I call that the "where's my 401k now" scenario,
Yes.
right? Yeah, you
Yes.
stayed home and you worked. I've talked to so many other moms. We all did little things on the side. Sometimes it's an MLM, sometimes it's finding online. I did online editing, that kind of stuff. You did things piecemeal because you had to financially, but heaven forbid you should actually just jump into the corporate world. Also, there was
Mhm.
no support in the ward, no daycare, nothing set up really. It was very expensive. And then you come out of it, 50, 60, and you're like, where's my 401k? So I say it laughingly, but also not. So I'm very happy that these women are starting out, they're working, they're both supporting a family, and good on them for deciding how many children they would like. That's the thing. You can have a large family if that's what you and your spouse choose without this other influence. And I have to say, the doctrine of there are spirits waiting for you is extremely dangerous. I've talked before about my best friend who believed that doctrine to the point where she had a last child when she shouldn't have and passed away. She was already in ill health. And that's an extreme example. But that doctrine that there's someone waiting, that's so much pressure. They need to stop all of that and just let families make their own decisions that are best for families.
Elder Andersen is the apostle who mentions that most often, has been my observation. But
Really?
I'm trying to point out here with your help, Rebecca, thank you, that these 2 individuals from the faithful Mormon point of view have already made 2 mistakes. She's working outside the home and they've limited their family to 2 kids. This is what the leaders are. That's why they're talking about this in general conference. That's why they talked about it to the young adults last night. And that's why they're going to continue to talk about it, is because they don't want Mormons doing this. We need more little baby Mormons so they can grow up into bigger tithe-paying Mormons. But Utah has one of the most expensive housing markets in the country. Yeah. You have to have a heck of a job if your wife is going to stay home, or you have to have a heck of a job if your husband's going to stay home. By that, I mean, you got to make a lot of money. Even with the tough economic reality, they prayed about their decision. What are you praying about your decision for? Unplug your ears. A prophet has spoken. Get to work. Ryan said they eventually felt at peace with 2 children. That revelation is not coming from the right source. That's what President Oaks would say. But Missy said that if they had felt it was right to have a third kid, we would have just done it and held our breath and really hoped that God would provide. Yeah.
I think this
Now-
speaks to a loss of trust on some level. Again, with the garments, with other things, this seems to indicate, yes, prophets have said this. Past members did it this way. We're going to strike out on our own. We're going to do it differently, and we're just going to live with that.
Yes, this is a remarkable and a dangerous streak of independence showing itself.
Personal revelation, right? Heaven forbid, about myself and those closest to me. Can it be real? Can I really follow it? People are, and they're using that. I don't want to say excuse, but they're using that justification. I'm not paying tithing anymore. I'm paying it to my own charity that I choose. I feel okay with that. I'm good with God, right? They're using this all the time.
Yep, and this is one. But guess what? Bishop Error, do you know what he would have counseled them to do? Bishop Error would have counseled them to take that leap of faith, if that's where inspiration led them, right? Despite
Really,
the
is he going
financial
to
uncertainty.
babysit? Yeah, is he
The
going
bishop's
to
job is to
hang out
encourage
with
you
them?
to have more kids. It's first his job to get you to get married. That's what young single adult wards are about. I know, I was in one for a number of years. I think I beat the national average of time spent in the young single adult ward, actually. But the thing is that, yeah, that's what they're there for, to get you married. And then the leadership is there to get you to have as many kids as you possibly can, regardless of your financial, emotional, or medical situation. Okay, so that's what he said. The Lord provides a way.
Is he their bishop? He's
I
not
don't
their bishop.
know.
So he doesn't have any right to speak for anyone else at best.
Maybe he is.
For people.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and I don't know how it is that the reporter, framed this sentence. I just don't know. But you're right. If he's not their bishop, and this is the funny thing, Bill. This is the classic thing, because I fall into that trap too. The funny thing is that because we're so Mormonized, and it's so hard for us to get out of that Mormon religious mindset, we understand that it's wrong for any other bishop to be giving them counsel regarding such an intimate and personal decision. But we think it is okay if it's their bishop.
Especially when the handbook tells the members that it is, again, there's some shaming and some guilting used in the articulation of it, but it finishes by saying that these choices are left up to the parents. Now, that's not the way the old handbooks used to say it, but the current handbook says that these are decisions that are left to the parents.
So he says the Lord provides a way to step up and take on the roles that he needs us to take on. I've never gone wrong trusting my Heavenly Father, he says. Well, I have lots of times. But maybe he is lucky, or God likes him better. That's the end of the story. That's where I got my little 30 there. And then we go, is this to, oh, here we got a picture. What is this picture of? Can you tell us about this picture, Rebecca? Have you ever seen this before?
I think I sent it to you. I was going to say, I didn't add this to the slideshow. So
no, you sent it to me and I added it to the slideshow.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You like to add personal pictures that I send you to public slideshows. That's how you roll.
Send them all, you'll be glad to know. But I just want you to understand I have the power to, if I so chose.
Wait till you see the next one.
Yeah, that's the White House. Yeah, I was actually in the DC area and got there in the evening. And of course, everything is shut down, but I was able to snap that of the White House. So I was looking for the ballroom. Didn't see it yet, but it was very dark.
It's on the east side. It's not there yet.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be hard to find it at this point.
Yeah, I would think so too. Yeah, exactly. All
So
right.
that's the end of that one. And now we do go, it says it's you. So I'm guessing this is your story?
It does say it's me. I think this is my story. Yeah. And I don't
save
have
the
my
Great
printed
Salt
out.
Lake?
I know. How can we save the Great Salt Lake? We've talked about this before. In fact, Bill did a really good analysis of this was it last month, I think, where you talked about it? That was really fascinating. And I hope that we're all paying attention to this. So in this case, the title is, How Can We Help the Great Salt Lake? I'm going to use my co-host Landon's favorite phrase for fasting, wishing without food, right? this is what we're going to do. And I wanted to point out that 2 years ago in 2023, I actually went to a blessing of the Great Salt Lake. It was a group led by Darren Perry. I think a lot of us know who he is. And we were all supposed to bring some extra water. That's my little water there in a jug. And there was a special ceremony. There were dancing, poetry, and everybody kind of poured their water. I mean, not obviously enough to make a difference, but symbolically back into the lake. And there was a special blessing said on it. So, this has been going on for years as we've seen the Salt Lake, shrivel. And people are really concerned and trying to do what they can. And BYU is no exception to this. This is an article that says BYU students are going to fast for the Great Salt Lake, but the fast itself is not the fix. And that's probably
a good thing
true.
they're telling us that up front, because otherwise we'd be really disappointed when the fast didn't do anything.
Yeah, fasting, I think, it's a way to feel empowered when you have no power. It's no different than a lot of other rituals that you may have for yourself or in a more organized way. But human beings, I think, are hardwired to try to do something when you have no power. Like I had a friend who said was concerned about her son going on a mission to a certain country. And she said, I will give up chocolate for the entire 2-year period. As long as one morsel of chocolate doesn't pass my lips, he will be safe. And that was her ritual that she came up with. It's the same kind of mindset, where you do something that's completely unrelated, but you relate it and it's powerful for you in your mind. It's kind of like a spell, right? A witch's spell. Anyway.
Yes, we are still not that far removed from ancient days because we fast in order to make a sacrifice unto God of our suffering so that he will hear our prayer and do what we want him to do. Now, fasting from that point of view is really what a person does who's just too scared to cut a finger off and offer it up to God.
I was going to say that. Head hunting. Yeah.
And God really knows.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we won't go that far, but you're right. So,
or animals, sacrificing animals, or
sacrificing animals.
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about historically.
Exactly. No, we wouldn't want to do that historically, but you're right. Do something that's difficult, give up something that's difficult. In some cases, take a life for the greater good. Okay. So it says
Christianity is based upon the concept.
Christianity is absolutely based upon the concept. If you really drill down, that is exactly what it is. So it says a newly formed coalition on Brigham Young University's campus is using faith to fight the drought plaguing the Great Salt Lake. The BYU Great Salt Lake Student Coalition is putting together a campus-wide fast to spread environmental awareness about Utah's water-starved natural wonder. And this is a key to it. It is to spread awareness. So I am on board with that because by holding this fast, they're reaching out to all the different departments, all the different student groups, and trying to get them involved, raising the awareness. It says BYU student Katie Dunn, the coalition's founder, said the purpose of the organization is to give students all across the campus the opportunity to fight for the future of the Great Salt Lake. So again, to collectively do something, even though there's really nothing you can do in this way. Exactly. And there's a picture. You can see, if you guys have gone out there, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's I've never seen it like this, and I've been visiting the Salt Lake since I was a kid. So it really is having a problem. About the fast, for the coalition's first event, members are staging a campus-wide fast November 16th. So if anybody would like to participate, it's the 16th. For BYU students and other Latter-day Saints, and then it explains that fasting is a practice in which participants do not eat or drink for periods of time in exchange for spiritual blessings. That's interesting. That makes it sound like it's tit for tat. It really will happen. I would have written in hopeful exchange or wishful exchange or something like that, but that's what it says. And then it says this fast is not meant only for spiritual blessings, but also to help bring education and raise awareness about the crisis of Utah's Salt Lake. So that's what they're doing.
That's because fasting for the spiritual blessing of the fast fixing the Great Salt Lake has no chance of happening. The one thing you can do is raise awareness by people noticing that you're doing a fast. I've said before that thoughts and prayers are literally the least you can do for someone. And I would put fasting in the same category.
Can I add that you couldn't have a better case study of a person or persons acknowledging the fact that they have no belief that fasting will do anything in the real world.
Yeah.
I think they're right, but it's surprising to hear it acknowledged and see it in print.
By the way, did you guys notice the common theme tonight? Garment shrinkage, Mormon family shrinkage, Salt Lake shrinkage. Shrinkage is the theme so far through the night.
You are right. The first half of the show is all about shrinkage. Wow. Way to tie that all together. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. What was it? I lost my train of thought because I'm laughing so hard. That was great. It's almost like if somebody were to do a hunger strike, like in public, that would raise awareness, things like that, where you do something dramatic to get people to notice.
This is sort of a hunger strike. That's
It is
really
kind of a hunger strike.
I think that if President Nelson taught us anything, it's that fasting doesn't do a lick of good.
Yeah, but they do it all the time. All the emails I've received about fasting for temples all over the world. The temple's coming. There's opposition. Please fast. Now the newest set of emails that I'm getting from different people that send them to me are all about missionary work. Our ward is fasting that there will be new converts. This is happening all over the place too. So anyway, I think I have the next story. Bill, were you able to figure out that Instagram reel that I wanted to have played? Did you see my notes on that? I know you were kind of under the weather today.
Your notes. Tell me, was it in a text on a phone?
There's a slide right here, and there's a link copied onto the slide, and it says in big red letters, Bill, can you play this?
That'll be easy. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is an interesting story that I was going to cover last week, and then we kind of had some other things, but it's an Idaho Files mayoral candidate. His name is Jeff Aldridge, and he's publicly addressing what are wild rumors following a controversial moment at a recent mayoral forum. We're going to watch a little news story on this, but the reason this is so interesting to me is people ask, what's it like to be a non-LDS person in a predominantly LDS area running for public office? I think we've all noticed, how the scales are weighed when it comes to how you vote and, who's LDS and who's not. And do you have a snowball's chance in hell of winning if you are not LDS? So this is a candidates forum where they gathered questions from the community, and a moderator, put out the questions, and each candidate had to answer, but the only non-LDS candidate got kind of an interesting question. Is that the right one, Bill? Maybe that's not. It was Channel 8 News. Maybe I put the wrong. That's really weird. Maybe I copied the wrong link on that. Okay. If I did copy the wrong link, I'll just tell you guys what happened, unless you want to look it up really quick. Bill.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it too.
It takes me.
That's really strange. Okay, so basically, yeah, see, there it is. So maybe you can look it up while I'm talking. Just look up Channel 8 News, Idaho mayoral candidate. So basically,
I remember
what happened,
it as being a question from the audience, and it was of a distinct.
Well, it was a moderator. Yeah, it was a moderator who chose the question out of 200 questions.
Are you kidding? So the moderator is also responsible for this?
Yes, because he's the one that chose it out of 200 possible questions. And the question that he asked in the panel to the person who was not LDS, who was running for the mayor of Idaho Falls, was, do you think Mormons are Christian or LDS are Christian? The
answer is yes, by the way. I don't care what you believe. If you're running for mayor of Idaho Falls, the answer to that question is absolutely.
Exactly. And the other part of the question was, I hear that Jeff has removed his religious affiliation from his candidate website, and so he kind of addressed that. He's kind of like, no, I am a Christian. And then the moderator goes, well, do you think that the LDS are Christian? And he goes something like, gosh, I wish I had it because now I can't remember. Maybe I can look it up.
He didn't answer the question.
He basically didn't answer it very, he just kind of said, I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, I wish Bill could find it. I would take a second to look it up here. I'm sorry that
I'm having a blue ribbon committee look into that question.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this then is if we go back to the slides, it gave the other candidates a chance to weigh in and to say, yeah, Bill, can you show this? I am a Christian, or sometimes here, I'll just read it what it says. Let's see. One of them says, these are the other candidates weighing in on this big firestorm around the answer or non-answer to the question, are you, do you think that LDS are Christian? It says running for public office means accepting that people will ask personal questions about faith, values, politics, and convictions. That's part of the public right to understand who their leaders are. Questions like these can reveal character, right? I mean, he's slamming the guy, or distract from the real issue. The other candidate comes out and says, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So basically the point is the other candidates were then able to freely express their faith and to question, this gentleman's faith. He later on, to clarify, said, only God can say who's Christian. I can't say if an entire religion is Christian or not.
You just said he was Christian.
Statement. He said he was, I know. So anyway, he kind of, but he was put in that position. And I guess my question to you guys is, what do you think about that? It's difficult to run for office. Yeah. Go ahead, RFM.
Because only God can make a Mormon. Only God can make a Christian. Poems are made by fools like me.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping we get that, because that was just astonishing to see it. I know it's in Idaho Falls, which I understand is in Idaho.
Hold on. I made a short of it.
This was crazy that in the context of a discussion, a debate among candidates for mayor there, are they having their
I got it.
Their election day tomorrow? I bet they are.
Okay, I'm going to share it to you on Messenger, Bill, because I made a short of it. This will just be off of Mormonish. Here it is in Messenger. Although the news story I was looking for, folks. I know, I don't know what happened there. All I can say is I've had
the link keeps taking me to some Salt Lake story.
No, I just messaged you a Mormonish short of the actual interchange on Facebook Messenger. And then the channel, it's covered on multiple news channels. So if a Google search didn't bring it up, just play what I have, and that'll just show you exactly what happened. There you go.
Let me take
this
that.
Guy?
Yeah, I think so. So here's.
I heard Jeff Aldridge removed his religion.
Yeah, that's it.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear it anymore. I could.
The website, but I am Christian.
Let me start it over.
And I'll leave it up to that.
I heard Jeff Aldridge removed his religious affiliation from his website and does not believe Latter-day Saints are Christians. Is this true?
I never had my faith on my website, but I am Christian. And I'll leave it up to Latter-day Saints. If they believe they're Christian, then they're Christian.
Do you believe they are?
I don't know.
Okay. I heard Jeff.
And that's it. Yep.
Absolutely. That's
the other candidates got different kinds of questions.
In Idaho Falls.
Exactly. Anyway, so he's addressing that now after the fact, because he got a lot, of backlash and also support from people saying, yeah, you shouldn't have had to answer that question,
That's absolutely true. Idaho. You should not have had to answer that question.
Exactly. And if you go to the slides, I did include in RFM, you can probably speak to this, because I have been here in Washington, D.C. Here's some pictures of me visiting some different sites, Monticello, Mount Vernon, all this amazing sites in the Washington Monument. You can probably speak to this RFM Article 6. Why don't you tell us what that is and what that means?
I'm guessing it's an article. It's probably in the Constitution, United States, right?
Yeah,
no
it's right there
highlighted. Clause. And Article 6 states, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. I expect that's been modified and extended probably through the 14th Amendment to the states and the cities as well.
Yeah, although we all know how that rolls. In fact, it's kind of opposite. I have, believe it or not, a lot of people in the cities that I deal with that are temple builders that are very gun shy of LDS people on their different committees, because they feel like it's kind of an inside man scenario. Sometimes they will send me names of people that are, running or applying and saying, can you tell me if this person is LDS? They're so concerned, right, about sabotage from the inside.
Being a Mormon should be a disqualifier if you're applying to be on a city council. At this point, with a basis other than religious affiliation, no, it's because of what other people in that position have done over and over again to help represent, instead of the interests of the city, representing the interests of the LDS Church, which seems to be more and more a problem that politicians, local and federal, have.
Yep. Amen.
Did you want me to read the top part of this? I'm sorry, Rebecca.
You don't have to. No, we're just kind of going through it. No, just to know that supposedly anyone of any religion can run for anything without being called on it, or someone who has no religion, right? But we all know how that goes too. So
I love these pictures. Is that Monticello?
yeah, it is.
I've never
Yeah,
been,
that was,
but I've seen
yeah,
it
no,
on
that was.
the nickel.
Yeah, no, I'm a little concerned because I had Mount Vernon and Monticello on my bucket list. I'm like going through these things so quickly. I feel like I might drop dead any minute now. Smiling, but yeah, my bucket list is going like that. So it's been pretty amazing.
Isn't it? It's a lot easier, isn't it, when all those states are so close together?
I was shocked. Yeah, I'm in Virginia. Oh my gosh, I'm over here. I'm there. And I will say everything's closed down. So when I say not Monticello and not Mount Vernon, but some of the other sites in DC, so I was able to whirlwind drive past the facades of buildings. So it looks like I saw a loss, but I didn't get to go in.
Okay.
All right. I think we're on to our next story. I think it's you and the devotional. Oh my gosh.
Adult devotional.
This is huge.
It's huge. The young adult devotional. Sunday evening. He's even doing it. See, there's Elder Andersen. He's doing the huge thing. Huge. Sunday evening. That's last night, November 2nd, 2025. He and his missus, but mainly he, gave a devotional for the young adults in the church. It was held in Washington, D.C. You could have attended, Rebecca.
I didn't know
It's
it
in
was
Washington, D.C. What? Did you know that?
I didn't know. I knew he was giving it, but I didn't pay attention to where it was.
Yeah, I didn't either until I had to start doing some research for this. But, you know,
I
it's
don't think
Sunday
I could pass
night.
for a young adult. Yeah, no.
Oh, come on now. It's Sunday night. I've got nothing else to do. So what am I going to do? Of course, I'm going to watch the young adult devotional. So I watched most of this live, at least after they got past all the singing and everything. I wanted them to wait till they got to the real meat of the presentation. But then I went back over it today in detail in preparation for the show because I thought there were a few things in there that were of interest. Now, the background on these devotionals, these young adult devotionals, these youth devotionals, the background seems to have changed because when I tuned in, I was texting with Randy Bell, and I took a screen grab of what it was they were showing, and I said, I think that's the biggest picture of Jesus I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that's not just life size. That's a giant Jesus. It's huge. You can see it's behind him. Have you ever seen a picture that big of? I don't know, but it's a huge picture, and it's really weird because we are not used as Latter-day Saints to seeing pictures of Jesus in these contexts.
Yep.
We are used to having nothing basically behind the speaker. There might be members of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. There might be darkness. There might be indoor-outdoor carpeting on the back of the wall of the chapel. There might be some really gnarly looking flowers in general conference, you know,
bacon.
Along the
remember the bacon? Yeah.
On the bacon,
COVID
yeah.
Bacon? The COVID bacon.
Yeah, I always got so hungry every time they had general conference with the bacon in the background.
But you know what else about this picture? This is not your standard LDS Jesus. This is a very Christian looking Jesus. That's why it looks so foreign. You typically don't see this picture used. This particular
I think this is more of a traditional Jesus. I don't think this is one of the newer Del Parsons.
Yep.
Mormonified.
Yeah, Jesus. He does not have blue eyes.
This is, by the way, if I didn't say it, this is at the Visitor Center at the Washington, D.C. temple. It looks like there's Seahawks fans out there, judging from the colors on the curtains. And the funny thing is, I thought, wow, I've never seen them try and advertise how Christian they are in this setting, this kind of setting before like this. And then the camera pulls back, and guess what happens, Rebecca? I see the rest of the stage.
Oh.
It's like the picture's big, but you ain't seen nothing yet. They got a copy of the Christus in there.
Which is there a close-up of that? Which one is it?
Which what?
Which Christus? There are a couple different ones. There's the one in the visitor center where Jesus is looking down, and then there's one where he's kind of looking right at you, going, "Hey!" I call him the A Christus.
Is that like the Fonzie Jesus?
Kind of, yeah. This one kind of looks like it's the looking down one. Yeah, they're kind of variations on the original.
Can you imagine Jesus on a motorcycle?
I can actually. I'm going to make that from AI right now.
I bet he could do any stunt imaginable. He could have jumped those like 18 buses or 11 or whatever it was. Evel Knievel messed up on Caesar's Palace.
Are you talking about jumping the shark? You know, that's
He
where that
could've-
term came from, right? Does everybody know
I
that?
do, actually.
The
I was there.
actual
I was watching
term,
the episode. I
I
had
was
that thought
watching
in
the
my
episode.
mind, even as it was happening.
Me too. This is
This
where we
is
lose Bill
terrible.
because he was like 2 years old. Yeah. No, if anybody doesn't know this, the term jumping the shark, which means, oh my gosh, you just went too far and just it all blew up, came from the episode where Fonzie was going to jump over a shark. And the episode was so absurd that became the phrase jumping the shark. Now we know.
Thank you for that. Thanks for that, Rebecca. So up there, you know, there's little people. It's like for perspective, you can see that these are human beings over here next to this picture of Jesus. They're these tiny people. They look like ants next to this picture of Jesus. And then there's the Christus. So it's like they really, really want people to see and associate Jesus with the Mormons. I'm getting that feeling now, more so than ever before that I've seen. The devotional structure, selling President Oaks. Now, this is the strange thing about this whole, it's an hour long, right? It's an hour long, and the entire thing from beginning to end is selling President Oaks. It's not, I'm going to quote him a lot during the course of my comments. It's all about selling President Oaks. There's 4 parts to it, okay? I would say, first off, if you took everything and boiled it down, he's boiling it down. Elder Andersen is boiling. President Oaks isn't there, by the way. This is all Elder Andersen. So Elder Andersen is going to talk about 3 categories of teachings from President Oaks under the headings. It's not in this slide. It'll be in one up front. Under the headings of standing up for the truth. That's number 1. Number 2 is marriage and family life, which is to get married earlier and have more kids. And number 3 is revelation. So that's the basic thing, okay? And in between each of those 3 video clips or series of video clips on each of those 3 subjects, they go to, somewhat confusingly, a video that was made earlier. Obviously, it is outside, and it also has Elder Andersen, who's speaking here, but he's also going to be in the video they're going to play, where he has assorted several young single adults or young adults, and he is asking them questions about what it was that they just played Elder or President Oaks is saying. Does that make sense? So they do that, and then, as if that weren't enough, adoration for President Oaks, no less than 4 times during the course of this 1 hour presentation, they have young adults from around the world sending in their love and greetings to President Oaks, and they play those at 4 different places throughout. So this was a huge, huge President Oaks love fest. And I have to say, I don't remember anything like this before. If you want to see it, you're going to get a taste for it as I play a few clips. I got a number of clips ready to go. But I have never seen anything like this before. It is like they feel that President Oaks needs to be sold as a good guy and as a prophet to the young adults of the church.
That makes sense. All he's done is crappy things and said things that marginalize and hurt people. So this makes perfect sense when you understand the history of Dallas H. Oaks.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I mean, it's big shoes to fill, right? The adoration and the gushing words, the love for President Nelson. Everybody quoted him all the time in conference. You know, you have to kind of ramp up here and you have to hit the ground running. And this is the way to do it. You have to tell everybody how much you will love your new prophet. And this is why.
Can I tell you that even in my most faithful and fervent days, this would have made me a wee bit uncomfortable. It's a little over the top.
Yeah, it's new. I don't think we've seen this since President Nelson. I think he was the first one. President Monson, you know, beloved folk stories. People appreciated him. We love the prophet. But this adoration, you know, that's just off the charts. That started with Nelson.
So out of those 4 things, I know I didn't actually read them. I sort of talked about them in a different order. I apologize. But the number 1 thing is talk about how wonderful President Oaks is. Here's a video clip. This is very interesting because Elder Andersen is going to talk about reorganizing the first presidency, and President Oaks now goes from being Elder Oaks to being the president of the church, Oaks. And we all knew it was going to be Elder Oaks because it's always the senior apostle. Those are the rules. It's not like they even have any choice about it. If they tried to do something other than the senior apostle, there would be civil war amongst the 12.
Elder Oaks knew it was Elder Oaks as soon as Nelson died.
Yes, and you pointed that out really well in that interview with the reporter who looked somewhat like Diane Sawyer. That might have been a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, he knew it. He knew it because she asked him about that. How did it feel when you found out that your good friend just passed away and that you're going to be the next prophet? And he answers, yeah, it was hugely burdensome. It's not like, well, I didn't know, it's not for certain. No, because it is for certain. So this is why you have to understand that it is not revelatory. There is nothing special about it. It is completely mechanized. But with the background of that, listen to how Elder Andersen describes the event and tries to make it sound as miraculous as possible when it was just another day at the office.
All around the world, I want to begin by telling you of the very sacred experience of only a few days ago, Tuesday, October 14th. It was on that day that we met as 14 ordained apostles, fasting and fervently praying for the Lord's blessing and reorganizing the new first presidency. It is a time that bridges heaven and earth. How grateful I am for the powerful and unforgettable spiritual witness and confirmation which came to me and each of us individually and unitedly. With the hands of all 13 apostles upon the head of President Dallin H. Oaks, President Jeffrey R. Holland set apart the Lord's senior apostle as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I give you my solemn and humble witness that he is the Lord's prophet upon the earth. He knows the voice of the Lord. He will guide us in truth and point us toward the Lord Jesus Christ.
So Rebecca, Bill, if you're a Mormon listening to this, do you come away from this with the idea that something kind of miraculous happened?
He tried to make it sound as miraculous as possible, yet he himself knows when he will be the prophet. He probably has a chart on his refrigerator, and all he has to do is cross out the ones in front of him, but he knows the order when he will also be the prophet. So he knows.
We're used to this. I mean, back in 1978, Bruce R. McConkie and others were trying to sell us that the 78 revelation was a big deal. And who was it? Was it Marion G. Romney? Somebody was at the airport and they were talking to someone and they were just like, didn't seem that spectacular.
I think you're thinking about LeGrand Richards there.
LeGrand Richards. And if you read LeGrand Richards' account of the 1978 revelation and Bruce R. McConkie's account of the 1978 revelation, they're not the same. One of them's telling you the truth and one's trying to embellish the story.
Right. Elder McConkie embellished the hell out of it to make it sound like it was a freaking miracle. In fact, he went further than Elder Andersen just did on that one. And then you got Elder LeGrand Richards just talking about it was a business meeting. We have a temple going up in Brazil, and there's all this people down there that they can't have the priesthood. So we got to do something about this. We can't have a temple in a country where they can't have the priesthood. You got to have the priesthood to get in the temple, for crying out loud.
And it was so calculated that they had to get rid of the two apostles that were so racist they would not have voted yes. One was in the hospital and one was sent on a business meeting. That's how revelation works. So, but everything's revelation. A gnat coming back to life, that's a whole conference talk. Losing the sound system at the MTC, we just talked about that. That's the miraculous. Everything's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yes, everything could be a miracle when you define a miracle as everything. So let's see. We had another clip here. This is still in the part about saying nice things about President Oaks. Remember, this is beginning to end. Okay, this is the second part. Play lots of video clips of President Oaks. Now, this is from that second thing about the family, the second point about the family. He's going to play this, and this is just going to rehearse from 2003, the same stuff he was saying. this past General Conference. I think this is the one.
Marriage is central to the purpose of mortal life and what follows.
Hey, Bill.
We are children of
Can we
a
stop this? Can we go to the next slide? I meant to make it earlier, but maybe it was later. Someone's going to picture of both on it. No. It's the one with Elder Oaks and his wife. Nope, earlier. There. That was supposed to be before it. And I just wanted to say this because Elder Oaks is going to give his spiel, the normal spiel he gives about you need to get married early, you need to get have kids fast. But he goes on and talks about in this clip that we're about to play from 2013 about how it is that you delay and you diminish blessings, you forfeit blessings for doing this. And it just suddenly occurred to me that not only is he saying the same old stuff and making these decisions for people in the church, he's saying it right in front of his wife, Kristen, who has no children, who delayed getting married until she married him after his first wife had passed away. And so she's sitting right there to his right. And at the last part of the clip we'll play, they show her. But the one thing he has to do is he has to say this. He has to say, if you intentionally don't get married, then you forfeit blessings, which doesn't make any sense because whether you do it intentionally or not, aren't you forfeiting the blessings anyway? All the blessings he's talking about of having the kids and, developing as the two people together, they get forfeited whether it's intentional or not. But when he says intentional, there's a little look from him over to Kristen, because this is how he has created a workaround for her so as that she's not hurt any more than she already is by what it is he's saying. I can imagine it being hurtful.
How do we know it wasn't intentional? We don't know.
I think it was.
The two highest ranking women. Well, how do we know she didn't have 15 proposals and turn them down, right? You're supposed to accept them if they're from a worthy LDS. The two highest ranking women of the church did everything the opposite of what we were told. They did not marry. They pursued their career. They did not have children. And they are the highest.
You're talking about Wendy Nelson and Kristen Oaks?
Yeah.
And also Sherry Dew.
And Sherry Dew. That's what. So the three highest ranking women in the church.
And then
that's
the
right.
fourth, who was over the president of the University of Southern Virginia, who used to be, what's her name? Johnson?
Bonnie Cordon.
Bonnie Cordon, of course. Oh my gosh, how could I forget that?
Yes, how can you forget? Exactly. It's just interesting to make that observation that it was hammered into us to do all those things, and yet the ones that are promoted, and actually a lot of the women in the top spots do have careers. Most of them did have careers. So that's great for them. I wish the rest of us would have gotten that memo that it was okay and didn't have the pressure, that a lot of us had. So anyway, that's a side note, but yeah, it's interesting to see them talking, and they've talked together at other devotionals about, having children, having a career and everything. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So here we go.
Marriage is central to the purpose of mortal life and what follows. We are children of a loving Heavenly Father who created us with the capacity to follow His commandments to multiply and replenish the earth. That power of creation is one of the most precious gifts we have in mortal life. But central to that gift is the law of chastity, the commandment that our powers of procreation be expressed only within marriage between a man and a woman. Consider what young adult Latter-day Saints miss when their marriages are intentionally delayed for a significant period. Opportunities lost and blessings postponed. This means delays in the important personal growth that occurs in the relationship between a man and a woman, husband and wife, growth in such qualities as sacrifice and humility. It means decreased opportunities to work together to build the kingdom of God. And most important, it means fewer children born to grow up with the blessings of the gospel. Just remember, a loving Heavenly Father has a plan for his young adults, and part of that plan is marriage and children.
I don't know what to make of that look on her face, but there at the end. But even if you take the intentional part and put it in, and did you see that part where he said intentional and then beat and he looked at her?
Yeah, it's not your
Even if you
fault.
put that in there, still more than half of what he said was totally condemning her.
Yeah. And does he know that 51%, last time I checked, of the women in the church are single? And that's widowed, divorced, never married. He's just not in touch with the demographic that he's talking to.
None of those children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I mean, are hers, except by marriage to him, I believe.
Yep.
So anyway.
I'd be curious how many of the top 15, their wives ran out to get the new garments as quick as possible, or got them before the pre-order of garments.
The day they show up in that is never going to happen. I guarantee it'll never happen. When you're made an apostle's wife, you have a very strict dress code. You can never be seen in public in pants. You have to always wear that weird and flattering length of skirt, kind of short. You have a dress code. It's very interesting. And you have to always be seen in that. If I ever see them in this kind of sleeve, I'll take it back. I'll do some kind of penance, but I don't think I ever will.
Cargo shorts for men.
The apostles in cargo shorts?
No, I'm just talking about guys wearing cargo shorts if they got garments on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of hanging out, peeking out underneath. So no, I told you the new garment bottoms are terrible for men and women. They're having a problem.
Yes. So there she is. There's the family. And this was the 3-part basis for the entire evening's performance, all about President Oaks again. Now, on Revelation and attending the temple, this is going to be when they're talking with young adults in between what President Oaks is talking about, the clips they're playing of him, and getting their thoughts about what it is that President Oaks said. They did a lot of these. There seems to be an expectation on the part of the young adults that they're talking to Elder Andersen and they're going to tell him kind of the basic Mormon responses that we're all familiar with, which means there wasn't anything remarkable that was said. There was one thing that I thought was interesting by one young lady, and she's talking about getting revelation in the temple, but there are some pauses in her response that I just thought were interesting. I didn't see any kind of pauses in anybody else's response, and I don't know what to make of them, if anything. If you'll pay special attention to those, Rebecca and Bill, as the video plays.
Olivia, what would you tell us?
I think the moments of revelation I've received that are most close to my heart are in the temple. And I am very far from understanding everything in the endowment. I think it's more of a, rather than really understanding every aspect in the endowment, it's more of an understanding, a feeling that Jesus Christ is there in the ordinance, that the fullness of his priesthood is there, and it is him who is sanctifying me and allowing me to feel that understanding. But my favorite hymn is "My Shepherd Will Supply My Need," and the last verse says, no more a stranger nor a guest, but like a child at home. And I know we're guests in the temple, but I've really come to understand what it feels like to be a child at home as I sit in the temple and try to commune with God.
Other than the obvious fact that at the end, the young lady try to commune with God to simply commune with God in the temple. Did you have any thoughts about that, Rebecca? You were paying very close attention.
Oh, I was, because that voice and those pauses is somebody with extreme cognitive dissonance who's not being themselves. And I just taped an episode where I listened to people like that, talking like that. I'm not going to go as far as to say where, but you can probably guess one of the more extreme cults. that we all know of. Anyway, it's disturbing to me because that doesn't sound like a natural person talking about something she's excited about. It sounds like a person who's trying to say what she's supposed to say and carefully wording it, and she actually sounds really upset. That's very hard to watch if you kind of read between the lines.
Her pause to me indicates I can't testify that I understand what the hell is going on in the endowment, but I need to say something that is uplifting and positive about it. And so she just says, I can tell the Savior's there, but I don't know what the hell any of this means.
Okay. Thanks for those insights. We next go to the third part under the subject of revelation, where, of course, Elder Anderson's not going to tell us anything about what he thinks. He's going to defer to what President Oaks thinks. That's the whole point of it. And this entire section is devoted to repeating the story of Elder Oaks getting mugged on the south side of Chicago, the baddest part of town.
I told you so? Can I say I told you so? I reported on this. I knew they were going to pull this out very quickly. I just knew it.
I put your question down there in parentheses. Is there a new requirement that LDS prophets have a miraculous past?
President Nelson set the bar with those two miraculous stories. And when we reported on this story, although this one I think is probably true, there's no way to say if it is or isn't.
No, that's the beauty of it, by the way. It's completely unfalsifiable. At least
Exactly.
Elder Oaks is smart enough to do that.
Yep. But I knew they'd use it. I knew they would.
Yes, and the only other witness who's named, which would be his wife, is not with us anymore, I think.
Mm-hmm. Or the young man. Perhaps he converted. Perhaps he's a member. We don't know.
Yes.
If you are here, come forward.
I'd like to hear his side of things.
I would.
By the
too.
way, Rebecca, in case I didn't do the clip because I'm getting sick of the story already. It's obvious that he's trying to measure miracle stories with President Nelson, and this is all he's got to bring to the game. Can you give us the thumbnail of this story?
Yes, I can very quickly. And again, he himself has told this story since the late 70s when it, happened. And it's also been rehearsed by Elder Bednar, other people, just talking about this wonderful, horrible, wonderful thing that happened. So he was attending a church meeting. He and his wife, they gave a ride home to a sister to a bad part of town. Once he walked her to the door and turned to go to his car, which was locked with his wife sitting inside, all of a sudden there's a young man, has a gun to his stomach, demands money. Elder Oaks says, I have nothing in my wallet, shows him. The young man demands the keys to the car. Elder Oaks will not give them. And then there's a moment where the gun slips from his stomach, kind of off to the side. Elder Oaks says, I had military training. I knew I could
My hands are registered with the Chicago Police Department.
That's right. And I listened to the clip again today of him actually telling this story in conference, whenever it was. He's told it several times. He said, the Spirit manifested to me that if I wrestled that gun, I would take that gun. That gun would end up in his chest and I would shoot him in the heart. And he said, I knew I couldn't have that on my hands. I knew I couldn't do that. So then he went on to joke.
Elder Oaks a revelation to save the life of the mugger.
That's exactly it, because Elder Oaks was so powerful, he could have killed him. So then the mugger put the gun back in his stomach, and Elder Oaks decided to reason with him as he would a teenager. Put his hand on his shoulder, say, dude, come on. You don't want to do this. Police are going to drive by. Talked him out of it. Apparently the mugger still said, no, give me the money, but he was able to talk him out of it. And I guess his wife just sat there in the car the whole time. I feel like I would say, give him the keys. My God, but I wasn't there. Anyway, that's the gist of the story. And that is very dramatic if it did happen that way. Although some other people pointed out that is a part of town where that happened a lot. I mean, I don't know, but that's it. That's what's being spun right there. That's the story. The miracle part is the vision, this inspiration that he would have killed him in a different timeline. Elder Oaks would have killed this young man, and it would have stained his life, I think, forever going forward.
He would have had that blood on his conscience for the rest of his life.
Yes.
You wouldn't want that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing. So President Nelson's miracle is an excuse for him to wuss out on taking the gun away from the kid. So we've all been there, okay? At least us guys, probably a lot of us gals too, where we're in a spot, there's a shot, we could do something. Do we do it or do we not do it? And at that critical moment, some people do and some people don't. Some people have the courage to try And some people say, I don't think this is my lucky day. I think I'll just, pass on that one. And that's probably what I would do. I would give Elder Oak so much more credit if he just said it that way. Okay. Because I would be able to relate to that. Instead, he's got to be the hero of the story. He's not just the hero, he's the superhero of the story. Because even though along this different timeline, which can never be tested or proven, false or not, right? In this alternate timeline, he shoots and kills this kid because he listens to the ghost. He saves not only himself, did I say ghost? I meant the Holy Ghost. He saves not only himself. I didn't mean
You're on the south side of Chicago. It's the ghost.
I didn't mean to be overly familiar with the deity. But he saves himself, he saves his wife, and he saves the mugger. Take that, President Nelson.
Yep. And the lady he walked home. For all we know, the mugger might have then gone knocked on the door. We don't know what could have happened.
Yes. So here's another clip. Now, we're to the section where the 4 places throughout where they have the young adults send in these cheery messages of love and gratitude to President Oaks, who once again is not here. Okay. He's nowhere to be seen involved in this, but they are laying out the red carpet. And it's like when you're an attorney and you got a witness on the stand that's an important witness, and the other side just got done in cross-examination of beaten and black and blue. And now you've got to go up on redirect, and you've got to try and make them look better. And that's called rehabilitation. You're trying to rehabilitate a witness. You're trying to undo the bad things that somebody else pointed out about them. This whole young adult devotional strikes me as an attempt to rehabilitate President Oaks.
Tonight, we will speak of the prophet and the temple and how they point us to our Savior, Jesus Christ. But first, an expression of love to President Oaks from young adults far away from here.
Hi, President Oaks. We just wanted to let you know that we're thinking of you and Sister Oaks.
We're sending you guys our prayers and love from Northern Canada.
Bye.
President Oaks, we're really grateful for your example and for your teachings. We look forward to learning from you.
Hello from Johannesburg, South Africa. We love you, President Oaks.
Mabuhay, President Oaks, mula sa the Philippines. Sobrang excited na po kaming matuto sa mga mensahe ninyo.
All around the world.
And now we'll get to the second one. At some point, it does seem a bit saccharine, doesn't it? And you haven't even seen all of it. There's actually stuff that's worse than this. I'm sparing you.
Oh, my goodness.
Can I just note, those are obviously orchestrated to some extent. Be short, 5 seconds, say your message really quick, say, we love you, President Oaks, and then say these things. This was fished for. This wasn't natural.
Now, and is this something that everybody does nowadays? Make the hand thing with the heart?
It's
the apostles learned to do it. They kind of do it really awkwardly. If you look at pictures, you'll see
like I was doing it that awkward.
No, you actually do it really well. That's really good. Can I just say
well,
though?
I think that was part of the directions. I think everybody is doing that heart thing in these videos.
You know, I hang out with a lot of young adults. I mean, just with my kids that are that age and their kids' friends and stuff like that. And I don't know. I don't think they would be on board with doing that. I don't know. I mean, they're all faithful LDS, but I think even they would think that was a little scripted. You know, I just don't know if they would do it. I don't know. What do you think, Bill? You probably hang out with no young adult faithful kids. I don't know. There's something about it.
After we covered that story on the social media request for content creators to say these things and we'll pay you money. Don't say this. Don't say that. This just feels like more of that. This feels like this was certain wards or stakes were given an assignment to pool a few people together, say, we love you, President Oaks, make a heart thing with your hand, make it really short and sweet. And it does feel very scripted.
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Here's this one.
I love the heart of President Dallin H. Oaks. With our young adults here in Washington, D.C., we discussed 3 important topics that President Oaks has addressed frequently. But first, let's welcome another.
What are those? Homosexuality? What are the other 2?
I'm so sorry. I wasn't even paying attention. I was still laughing at my attempt to insert Hannibal Lecter.
He said that Elder Oaks is taught on 3 things mainly. I know one of them is homosexuality. What's the other 2?
Conversion therapy.
Conversion that he would understand the truth.
The family
All right, sorry, I had to interrupt.
We're
President Oaks from young adults around the world.
Here's some more.
Aloha, President and Sister Oaks. We're so grateful for the example you both have on us in the church. We love and sustain you.
Hi from Ogden, Utah. President Oaks, we are so grateful for your counsel, especially on exaltation being a family affair.
We love you and sustain you.
Hi, President Oaks. We are sending our love from Rome, Italy. We love your teachings about eternal family, and we are looking forward to seeing you here in the eternal city. Bye.
Bye, we love you.
See the hard thing? By the way, you can just say Rome. We'll assume it's Italy as opposed to Rome, Wisconsin.
You know, I hate to make, I'm not making fun of any of these kids. I think they seem, well, I'm not, because I think these kids are awesome and they're doing the best they can. They're doing what they think they're supposed to be doing, and they think they're sincere, and hopefully they'll all show up in one of our chats someday.
They're the best. Oh, that was it? That's all you wanted to say?
I just want to make, I don't like to poke fun at people that are trying to do something
I'm just playing the clip.
and especially young people. No, I'm saying, because I was making faces. I didn't mean to. I just felt like
you were making. So this is
I'm apologizing for myself, not for anyone else. I'm saying I typically don't like to, call out or make fun of somebody like that. So just the overall idea that these kids were asked to do that, perhaps that's what I can, take exception to.
And technically, I didn't play the clips. Bill is playing the clips. So if it's anybody's fault, it's Bill's.
Yeah, you are completely off the hook of the 3 of us. Yes, as usual.
So Bill, can you play the 3rd clip now? Have more. This is
Before speaking of our second topic, could we have another expression of love from somewhere across the world?
We are in Munyava, Mozambique State.
We love you, President Oaks.
We love you, President Oaks.
We're so grateful for your lifelong example of faith.
We love you, President Oaks.
Hola, Presidente y Hermana Oaks. Somos de Madrid, España. Gracias por sus enseñanzas. Los amamos. Los amamos.
At least they didn't do the heart shapes from Spain.
The last guy did. The last guy did a heart thing.
From Spain?
Whatever that last group was. Madrid.
Really? Okay.
Very well.
We love you,
anyway.
Oaks.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, doing the heart thing. We love you, President Oaks. We love you. You're the best. It's a strange thing we have in the church because we've actually never met this person. I think I speak for most of us. I haven't met him. Have you met him, Bill?
Nope. I've met an apostle or 2, but not that one.
Yes.
I've met him.
You met President Oaks. I've heard people say he's actually kind of jovial in private.
I actually had a good experience. This would have been 28 years ago. I found myself in first class with my 2-year-old because I had been bumped off a flight trying to get somewhere. And they said, you can get on this flight and we'll let you go first class. And I was like, me? So I'm sitting there with my 2-year-old, who was a very well-behaved little 2-year-old. My kids were all completely awesome. I did not know President Oaks was in the seat in front of me because you don't know, who's sitting in front of you if you don't go that way. And when we all stood up, I'm like, I think it's him. And he turned around. He goes, your young man is very well behaved, which I thought that's great because he wasn't kicking the seat. He wasn't crying. He wasn't doing any of that. So my young man, who is now 30 and not a member of the church anymore, has the stamp of approval from Elder Oaks.
Wouldn't it have been funny if you'd been kicking the seat the whole flight?
Looking back in hindsight, I should have been kicking the seat.
Yeah, I'm not getting a whole jovial vibe off that, but it's an okay story.
Yeah,
I
mean, it was a weird brush with apostle greatness. I've only ever had one other one, and that was Elder Holland where I met him when I started BYU, and his wife said, "Oh, what a lovely young freshman." And he said, "You'll be married before the semester's out." I didn't get married till I was almost 27. So there you go.
You showed him.
I showed him, gosh darn it.
Tell me what to do, will you? Okay, so there's the fourth one. Remember that one? I think you have it over here. I'm sorry, you're trying to do it, Bill. Hands free. Thank you. And this is the last one. This is the final one. Rebecca, see if you like this one too.
I did what?
See if you like this one too. This is the last one.
Oh, I don't know if I can watch anymore, but I'll try.
There's more.
Don't you think 4 is over the top? Here it is.
Yeah.
Could we have one final expression of love for President Oaks before addressing our third subject?
I'm serious now.
한국에서 전해드립니다. 옥수 회장님 사랑합니다.
It's our privilege to sustain you as the prophet of the church during this next season of church leadership, President Oaks. We look forward to following you and are excited to support you as young adults all over the world.
No hearts there. I don't think they love him very much.
Do you know what they love? They love the office of the president. They love the office. I mean, I was in primary when it switched from one to the next, right? The Sunday before, we were singing Monson, Monson, Monson. The next Sunday, we were singing Nelson, Nelson. It's the office. It's not the person.
How are they going to do it with Oaks? That's only one syllable.
Yeah. Oaks was a prophet. Oaks. Yeah, they're going to have to make it longer.
I think they should just call it Dallas.
In fact, I'm going to write that verse right now while I'm thinking about it.
Dallas was a prophet. Dallas was a cowboy.
Dallas was a prophet. Worked at BYU. He made sure. Okay, I'm going to write it. Look for the report, everybody.
That sounds like a winner. And here we have some early pictures, not of you with Dallas Oaks and his first wife, but with do you know who this is? Is that you, Rebecca?
No, I had blonde hair when I was a freshman, but my hair was long. Yes. Who is that?
That looks a little bit like Neil.
Oh, is that Elder Andersen? It's them. Oh my gosh, it's them back in the day. It was foreordained. Look at that.
It's like back
and
in the early...
That's not Kristen though. That's not Kristen.
Are you sure? No, you mean you mean this is Elder Anderson's wife. I forget her name. I apologize.
No,
that's his first wife. That's Elder Oaks' first wife.
That's what I mean. They look like eerily alike, I think.
I know.
They're both very attractive.
If you put a wig on Elder Oaks, and some lipstick, you couldn't tell them apart,
it's Elder Eyring and his wife that looked interchangeable. I'm just saying Kristen and his first wife. It happens a lot,
especially among the apostles for some reason.
Yeah.
But there's Elder Andersen and his wife. I can't remember if it's Stephanie, but. And here, now this is in the comments section, okay? This is what the faithful Latter-day Saints have to say about this. Of course, most of them are over the moon. This is wonderful. This is fantastic. But even the faithful were a little bit taken aback by the seeming over-focus on President Oaks. Can you read that first comment, Rebecca? Or can you?
You know what? I can if I pull it up on my phone. Hold on.
Because I think
I think it's very telling that even some of the faithful were kind of, and like I said, I know faithful kids, not everybody be on board. Okay. The one that says, I wish you would guide us. Is that what it says? Okay.
Yes.
I wish you would guide us in godly principles instead of selling the prophet.
I took the title for this whole segment from this Latter-day Saints comment, selling the prophet.
Yep. Selling the prophet. Yes, I believe in him, but I desire insight into God and his role in my life. So again, it's not necessarily the man. You don't have to make him into this, larger than life figure. He's telling us what God wants for us. That's what we should focus on.
Hey, Bill, can you read the second? I'm sorry. Can you read the second comment, Bill? Because amazingly, somebody else agrees.
I agree. If he talked so much about President Oaks and showed like 5 videos of him, I wish we had President Oaks instead talking to us.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. When your own followers are saying things like this, you may have jumped the shark. Okay. I think that's the end of this story. Let's see. Yeah, because this is your story. Is that right, Rebecca, about AI?
Yeah, but again, I'm going to, because I talked a lot this episode. I don't know why I interrupted and I talked a whole bunch. I'm
Can
going
I
to
say
save
something,
my
Rebecca?
last story.
As I'm interrupting you,
next
I'm
week.
interrupting you to compliment you.
Interrupting me talking about interrupting. Just do it.
You have been absolutely on fire tonight.
You know,
Your
I
muse
think
has been working overtime. You have had the gift.
I think I feel very passionate about all the topics that we're talking about tonight, like all of them. So I had a lot to say. So because of that, I'm going to save my last stories to next week because they really do need more time to cover them. I do not want to rush through them. So Bill,
I feel
if you
like
want
I
to just
really took
switch
too
this.
long with Elder Andersen.
No, you didn't. No, it was very important. For some reason, I can't switch the slides now. If you just want to go down to, and we'll let RFM take it away with what's coming up next. I think we covered all the really important highlights of this week. It was really good. Are the slides blocked? Sorry, Bill. I was trying to move them, but I couldn't.
Oh, what is this about, by the way? Can you tell us what this is about?
No, because I tried to cover it last week and I've tried to cover it this week. I'm going to save it. It's a bombshell for next week.
Okay.
But I don't know, Bill, do the slides not move to?
I did it. Can you see that it changed on the radar?
On mine, it just shows that it's still the same. I'll take your word for it.
It is. We're good to go. So yeah.
You're up first, Rebecca, because tomorrow is Tuesday night. That's Mormonish.
Right. That's exactly right. Okay, hold on. What happened to my slide that I put in? Did you? There we go. Okay.
I'm not doing anything at this point. I just want you to know.
We have a really interesting episode coming out on Tuesday night, as always, at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And it's called, What Do the Faithful LDS Think About the One True Church Narrative, right? Because now the church is moving way more mainstream. They don't mention it as much. You don't lead with, I mean, we are the one true church. You don't lead with that. You kind of put that on the back burner. So I kind of went over to Faithful Social Media. Somebody had asked a question about this, and I kind of gathered a bunch of comments and also some clips of other people thinking that they have the one true church. And it's kind of interesting just to see how people navigate their faith like that. Do LDS people still believe they are the one true church? And are they just kind of hiding behind, oh, all churches have good? So it should be really interesting. And that's tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I also just wanted to mention, I was going to put a slide in, but my computer died. Thrive, I believe in the next day or so, if not already, Thrive in St. George, February 20th through 22nd. The tickets are going to be up. The presenter speaker list is going to be up. It's going to happen within this week. So keep checking back. ThriveBeyondReligion.com. There's going to be a bunch of stuff from all three of us, who are going to be going. And this is in February. So way in advance, but you want to plan in advance and just keep checking ThriveBeyondReligion.com or org. I can't remember. Anyway, all that information and the links to get tickets and everything are going to be up within a day or so. I think they're not quite up yet. Yeah, because I've seen the preliminary call sheet and everything. So in the next couple of days, everything will be up. We would love to see all of you at Thrive. It's really fun. I'd love to get to see all of you in person.
And Bill, we can keep an eye on that too for Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah. It is ThriveBeyondReligion.com. And you'll see the events there and the St. George one. And the three of us will be there. So don't hold back. Show up at this Thrive in St. George and hang out with us.
All three of us. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Which one is which?
Well, my answer to this is the Mormon church better be the one true church because they ask everything from you. If it's not the one true church, then they don't get to ask as much. That's my opinion.
That's a good point.
And then we have Wednesday. Oh, no. Almost Awakened. Excuse me, Bill.
That's all right.
You had one before me. You had an episode you already put out that was really good.
Yeah.
Go back 2 slides. We jumped the gun. There you go. See, same theme. Yeah, this is
Did
great.
you watch this, Rebecca?
I watched part of it, yeah, and I'm going to watch the rest of it tonight. So, but no, it's such a good topic. It really is. I mean,
it seems to be on the mind of a lot of people. And I think I give the final answer to it. It's causing a lot of consternation in terms of controversy is probably the better word for it, which I'm all in favor of. I think controversy is a good thing. I think people hashing things out with words is all to the good, whether they come to an agreement through the process or not. So then we've got Wednesday, on Mormonism Live, and we're having special guests. It's Colby Reddish, and I don't know how much to say about it, but here's what the title is going to be. The title is going to be a bit too long. It has to do with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Mormon. That's the first thing. Now, I released an episode some time ago, now a few months ago, because I was very much into the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Mormon and trying to find the connections. And what I came up with was an episode that talks about all these people trying to make connections between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Mormon, and they're not there. They're not there. But it's worse than that, because now Colby Reddish has conceived of a scientific experiment. I think I can call it scientific. I'll call it experiment, literary experiment, that will go a long ways towards seeing if the Dead Sea Scrolls actually disprove the Book of Mormon. So far, what I had come up to is they don't prove the Book of Mormon's true. The evidence that you think you're seeing there is not there. But now Colby thinks he has something he's going to be premiering on the show, Bill. Evidence that the Dead Sea Scrolls positively shows that the Book of Mormon is not true.
Yeah, maybe rather than what's missing, maybe it's what's there that we should have been looking at. I'll just say, I want to put this back up for just a second. I just want to note to the audience, RFM is creating his own thumbnails now. And this one I think this is a great thumbnail. I think you did a hell of a good job. So kudos to you, RFM. So
I can't believe you made it. You really did that?
I know it's hard to believe, but Bill has been tutoring me longer than any person should ever need to be tutored. And I'm not done yet. It's
amazing. And I feel like you should send this episode to the mayoral candidate in Idaho Falls. It might clear some things up.
Yeah. Yes, I think I will. I think that's exactly what I'll do. I think it's too late for him to take my advice and say, absolutely, Mormons are Christian. It's like they're too late to take my advice 9 times out of 10 when a new client comes through the door. Don't talk to the cops. Because they already have.
And I'll just note then, so folks, check out RFM's episode there on Mormons Christian, but also the Wednesday night with Kobe on Mormonism Live. Don't forget Mormonism After Dark Friday at 8 p.m. And then this will go out, I believe, Sunday morning, an Almost Awakened episode on escaping sexual shame. I had AI make this image, and my personal feelings are the feet are just too close to the body. It's like
like these 3 feet tall.
3 feet long legs, yeah.
It's like triplet from the bandwagon.
But those two look like they've escaped the sexual shame and are having a lot of fun. And
these are little people.
Yeah,
and there's no Jesus under the covers with them. That proves that they escaped, because typically the pictures that you see are the couple and then the loving arms of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
These are the loving feet of Jesus. So is that everything? We've got Friday night coming up after Wednesday. As far as I know, that's how the calendar still works.
How was your Halloween show? I was only able to tune in because I was traveling for a minute a couple times. How was it? Just real quick before we end.
It was the best Halloween show that's ever been had since October 30th of 1938.
There were
so good. War of the Worlds?
There were 2 people. One person
Bill, they might be watching.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to say anything rude.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. One of the people entertained us with a real story about how they have, don't want to call it split personality. And again, that's the wrong term. She used the acronym and I forget what it's
DID, dissociative identity disorder.
But where she is a never Mormon and she how can I say it?
One of her personalities is Joseph Smith, whom she likes to court by sleeping and cuddling with his death mask.
Yes, and she was telling the truth.
Is that what you're trying to say, Bill?
She was telling the truth. She is in a relationship with a part of her personality which expresses itself as Joseph Smith, the prophet. By the way, he loves our show. He does not. So there's that.
Can you imagine what kind of foundation is that to build a lasting relationship on?
I thought it was a great call. And then the other one was a lady who had lost 2 of her kids years and years ago, was still deeply wounded by the loss of her children. And I thought it was a really important emotional moment for the show.
It was windy.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll have to go back and watch.
Yeah.
For sure.
Those 2 are worth it.
It was very
should
different
everybody
from
else.
the Halloween show that I had envisioned happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Everybody go watch, along with me, if you didn't catch Mormonism After Dark last Friday night.
And I'm in my vampire outfit.
I did log on long enough to see your costumes. Those were fantastic. Did you do your own makeup?
I did. It was so horrible. Oh
It
my
was kind of
goodness.
horrible. I was concerned when I first saw it, but then I
think
realized
that
Wendy must be gone and it was you.
what this means is I need to go with the Bob Kelly makeup and not the crap that they sell at Walmart.
Yeah.
Even the white stuff, you know, you put it on the sponge and put it on. It's just like
You still
I
don't have
know.
your theater kit? You still don't have your makeup kit? I know actors
No,
that have it
I need to get
35
the
years
pick.
later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, interesting.
I think I probably borrowed other people's makeup mostly. But this was horrible makeup done horribly. So it was really bad. But at least I had fake teeth, right? So that was it.
Yeah.
The fake teeth. And I had the medallion with the huge red jewel in it. Goes along with the vampire thing. And
Did you have a
had the
stake in your
tuxedo
heart?
on.
You have a
What?
stake, I don't know where my heart. Did you have a stake in your heart?
No. I don't want to suffer that much for my art. Thank you. And Bill, what were you?
I was Waldo.
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
You were a natural. You were born to play the part of Waldo. Bill Reel is Waldo.
Yeah.
I could hardly see you. I could hardly find you when I logged on. It was such a good costume.
It's like you're blending into the background.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I think.
You're welcome. So Friday night is coming. We're going to be back here for another wonderful episode of Mormonism After Dark, but you don't have to wear a costume to appear on the show this time. Right, Bill?
That's right.
Yes. We enforced that rule quite strictly.
We did.
Last Friday. But that rule's gone. So you don't have to wear a special costume. You can if you want. But this Friday, come aboard. This is the swinging place to be in the lounge with Bill Reel and Radio Free Mormon at Mormonism After Dark, 8 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. So thanks, everybody, for watching the newscast. Bill, Rebecca, anything else you want to add before I close this out? All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Okay. See, when you shake your head, I think you mean no.
I said there's nothing else to add except for this word. It was fantastic.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Please don't forget to hit like. Please don't forget to hit subscribe. And we'll see you next week, 6 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, for another episode of the Mormon Newscast. Good night.
That's a wrap for this week's edition of the Mormon Newscast. We appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Keep the conversation going and stay informed on all things Mormonism. Until next week, wishing you peace and joy. See you next Monday at 6 p.m. on the Mormon Newscast.